Good morning, beautiful people. Isn't it incredible how every single day offers us a lesson in life? How the divine matrix of the universe can provide something for every single person to learn on every single day they walk this beautiful planet Earth. I've just dropped both my children off at school and I'm doing that famous walk. And once again the birds are chattering and life is peaceful. And yet last night another story was thrown up for our beautiful family, where we all learned something. Yesterday, as a way of helping Mila to recover from losing her dog, that's my eldest daughter, and also as a birthday present from her grandma, we bought her some fish. Well, my wife bought her some fish. And I actually was not there when the fish were bought, but I left the house yesterday saying just let's not rush into this, even though it's just two fish, it's not a dog, it's still important that we do the research and make sure that we provide a good home for the fish. And I got home and these two beautiful fish were swimming around in an aquarium, which the pet shop had sold to us. And then I started to Google what you need to do to look after these fish. And I realized that the temperature of the water needed to be more than 24 degrees. I'm not going to go into the details. But our aquarium could not go up to 24 degrees. It was just a basic one. And I think it was 21 or 22. And within 3 hours, both fish had died. And I'd already been triggered by the fact that the shop had sold us the fish without really checking what facilities we had, what kind of house we were going to provide for them. And I'd been triggered because, well, for me, every single life is incredibly important. Be they human, be they fish, be they a fly that's stuck in the house, be they a dog, it doesn't matter. For me, it's so important. And that taking responsibility and making sure you do your research before you buy any pet or anything which is alive, whether it's a plant or a seed, or for me this is one of the most important things you could possibly do, because who says that humans are more important than animals? Not me. For me, a life is a life. And unfortunately, in front of our two small children, we had this situation where Daddy was clearly upset because we hadn't done our research on what the fish needed to survive and to live in our home. And Mummy was upset because she realised that she'd not got the right conditions for the fish, and she'd kind of rushed into it and got the fish. And the children were upset because Mummy and Daddy had slightly different opinions on the subject, and Daddy was clearly sad, and Daddy said he was sad. That was me. And then 2 hours later, both fish died. Like I knew they would, because the water temperature was wrong for them. The point of the story here is that as earthlings, as human beings, we have to take responsibility for everything. Everything on our planet, everything that comes into our house, every animal that comes into our path. And we've had this funny discussion about mosquitoes on the forum, because no doubt mosquitoes represent one of my biggest challenges in life. It used to be wasps as well, but I've forgiven wasps and I've let go, and I always save wasps now. They have stung me many times in the past, but they're alive, and we need to treat them as if they are, and they're part of the ecosystem. Mosquitoes, that's a harder one, isn't it? I mean, I think they're the biggest killer. Not in Europe, but in Africa, because they spread malaria. They make that horrible noise. Oh my goodness. I'm not sure which is worse, the noise or the bite, but I think it's the noise, because you know they're going to get you, and they're hovering around your ear going bzzz, and it's that incredible, I don't know what frequency mosquitoes vibrate out of their wings, but it is one that certainly knows how to trigger a lot of human beings. And then there's that silence. And in that silence, you know that they could well be sat on you and they could be about to bite you. But I've gone through phases of not killing mosquitoes and just accepting the bite. And Ram Dass talks about it a little bit when he was learning how to meditate in India, of how his guru said that they were part of the training, because so many times he was meditating and he wasn't allowed to move for 3-4 hours. And the only thing that happened and the only thing that distracted him was these mosquitoes that used to go zzz and then just stop. And he knew they were on his nose and they were about to bite, but because he was meditating and he wasn't allowed to move, he had to accept it. So they are part of our training, they're part of our ecosystem, and they're alive, just like us. Can we forgive mosquitoes? Can we let go of the fact they're going to bite us? If we let go of mosquitoes, does that mean that we've made it? Is that the final frontier before enlightenment? I don't know, but they're certainly a test for us. And that's why I wanted us to send love out to mosquitoes and wasps and jellyfish and all the animals and insects which perhaps are the hardest ones to love on the planet. Jellyfish are very beautiful. I remember getting stuck in a school of jellyfish, and everywhere I turned there was these big white jellyfish. That wasn't very pleasant. Yeah, so I think what we have to do is take responsibility for every life that's in our house. Take responsibility of every human that's on our planet. Take responsibility of every tree. Because we're here on this earth only as visitors. And yes, a lifetime might be 70, 80, 90, 100 years. But we are the caretakers of this earth and all that lives upon it. We must treat everything and every life with the respect it deserves and the love that it deserves, whether it's mosquitoes, trees, whatever. There's a reason for every single species to be on this planet. We're all part of one great ecosystem. And whether you're a wasp or a mosquito, you're part of that system. And until we learn to take responsibility for everything on this planet, we failed as human beings. Because from the scientific side, there's the food chain, the ecosystem. But from the spirit side, it's about learning to love every single species, every single plant, every single blade of grass. And when a fish dies in our house, we don't flush it down the toilet. We respect its life. We honour it. and we make a tribute. And when the fish died in our house, and my wife suggested we flush them down the toilet, I can't even tell you what was going on in my head. But today, it's my job to go home and to bury them and to honour them and to say a little prayer for them and pay homage to their life, because they're not just a fish. They're just like us. And we have a responsibility to make sure that they return to a place of love. And I can honestly say that something in my heart broke when I saw those fish had died. I think it was George Bernard Shaw who said, heartbreak is life educating us. And it feels that life has many lessons and many opportunities to break our hearts. And this is just one of the many. And when I told my daughter that the fish were now gone, "Daddy, where have the fish gone?" I'm sorry they didn't make it through the night. I feel now I have a great responsibility to educate my daughter that whenever you get a pet, you need to prepare, and it's a big responsibility. Just like having children or anything in life which involves looking after and taking responsibility for another life. And if having a soul means being able to feel love and loyalty and gratitude, then I think a lot of animals are better off than a lot of humans. But unfortunately in our house for the fish, that wasn't the case. And although we never got to know the fish very well, it still feels like there's an element of grief which has come through because we lost these fish. And they say grief is like the ocean, it comes on waves, ebbing and flowing. And I know my daughter is still recovering from losing her dog, and I think losing these fish is another reminder for her that life is short and we have to make the most of what we have with people or pets, because they're not going to be here forever. And it's an honour to have people and pets in our life. Sometimes the water is calm and sometimes it's overwhelming, and all we can do is learn to swim. And Mila right now is not only learning to swim physically, but she's also learning to swim on this planet as she finds out the truth about life and death. And one of my great hopes is that as she goes to school, that the education system can one day teach children about taking responsibility in life. It can teach them about the fact that we are not permanent on this planet and that one day we'll die. Because I think it's the biggest lesson we can learn in life, that grandma and granddad and mummy and daddy and Billy the fish or Tosca the dog, they're not going to be here forever. And as the parents to these children, as the teachers to these children, we have a responsibility to pass on that mantle, pass on that baton, and educate them that this is the way life is, and this is how we deal with it. Because dealing with death and heartbreak, it's so important that we learn how to do that in a way where we don't flush it down the toilet and pretend it never happened. That we provide a monument in their hearts towards these souls that are just like ours. So wish me luck as I go and create that monument, so I can explain to Mila later that just like Tosca, her fish are no longer here, but the candle of their love and our love for them still burns brightly in our hearts. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for listening. Namaste.